Hello everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Please, can someone confirm that they can hear me? Hello. Good evening. Do we have people on? We have people in class. Okay. Please, can I have some? Okay. Oh, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sorry.
All right. Thank you so much. Good evening. Welcome to today's class, our first class for the IP session for 2025, our first and second quarter 2025. Um, you are all welcome. Thank you so much for joining in on time. We'll soon be commencing. Our topic for today is IP for business, right? My name is Dennis Williams, and I'll be your moderator for today. So moving on, uh, okay, I think we have one of our mentors on call. Thank you so much, Mr. Sand, for joining in. We'll go straight to read our mentor's profile, and after that, we'll just dive into today's topic. So, on to our mentors. The first mentor we are expecting for today is Mr. Max Combe. Mr. Max Combe is the founder slash principal of Everlaw Associates. He works extensively in the field of arbitration, ICT, technology law, and intellectual property. Max is a facilitator on the annual Information Technology and the Law course of the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies since 2016. He has trained in advanced intellectual property law courses at the World Intellectual Property Organization Academy and is an accredited agent of the Nigerian Trademark and Patent Registry and has conducted IP registration business there since 2010. Mr. Marks has been a constant mentor with us here at Jiipcc. We thank him for everything that he does for us. He's not yet here in class, but I believe he'll be joining us shortly. Our second mentor for today, who is already here with us, is Mr. Sand Umbakalu. Mr. Sand Umbakalu is an international development expert with over 15 years of experience in implementing projects across geographical indication, international trades and investments, trade policies, research, policies reform, market access, monitoring and evaluation, capacity building, market linkage, and value chain. As the lead technician consultant for the Africa Intellectual Property and Innovation APRIP projects funded by the European Union and the European Union Intellectual Property Office, SAND was instrumental in the ongoing efforts to support the Nigerian government in establishing a robust framework for protecting and promoting geographic indication for promote for protecting and promoting geographic indication. Additionally, SAN served as the lead national researcher for the French Development Agency funded projects, which identified potential GIS products in Nigeria and developed a national database to catalog these valuable assets. His current role as the executive director of the Africa International Trade and um, Commercial Research and International Trade Consultancy and work across Africa. SAND has led numerous successful initiatives to raise the awareness about geographic indication in Nigeria. Key accomplishments include organizing the National Sustainability Development of Nigeria GI Stakeholders Engagement in 2017 and the second edition of the Nigerian Geographic Indication Stakeholder Dialogue in 2018, themed Making Nigeria GI Global. Furthermore, Sand and his team co-hosted a successful webinar. Okay, sorry about my volume. Um, I hope you can hear me clearly. I'll just run through the profile so that I can switch device to maybe something that may be much better. Um, okay, sorry about that. Team co-hosted a successful webinar series with the World Intellectual Property Organization on the importance of geographic geographic indication for the sustainable development of Nigeria. Currently pursuing a PhD at the University of Cape Town, South Africa. Sand also holds an MSc in Business and Management and a BA in International Trade from the University of Portsmouth, UK. In addition, he has completed certificates in trade negotiations in an era of uncertainties from the European University Institute, Italy, and has earned several professional development certificates from the prestigious international institutes such as the World Trade Organization and the United Nations Conference and Trade Development. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. Mr. Sand is, like you see from his profile, he's a well-rounded, very vast mentor on intellectual property, and I'm sure during his session we'll get to hear from him, share on his expansive knowledge within the intellectual property space. So our last but not least of the mentors that we have, that we're supposed to have in today's class is Mr. Folarinwa Aluko. Mr. Folarinwa Aluko is a legal practitioner and partner in the firm of Truman Rockwood Solicitors, where he provides advisory and consultancy service to companies and a wide range of creator, users, and startups. Folarin is a director of the Intellectual Property Institute Nigeria. He is the chairman board of trustees of the Intellectual Property Lawyers Association Nigeria. Folarin is a member board of trustees of the Sports Lawyer Association of Nigeria, as well as the member of board of the Nigerian Digital Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Aluko is also a board member of the Songwriters Association Nigeria with a background in ICT hardware and digital forensics. Folarin has led legal teams to champion consecutive consequential strategic impact public interest litigation in the IP space since 2012. Folarin is a consulting mediator with a commercial intermediate and ADR firm based in Lagos and Abuja. He is a thought leader in Nigerian innovation, technology, intellectual property, and entertainment space. Thank you so much to our very, very esteemed mentors. You can see from the class of mentors that we have that you have people who are well-rounded within this. We have mentors who are well-rounded within the space of intellectual property, and I'm sure they'll be doing well to give us a thorough run through our topic for today, which happens to be intellectual property for business. So we'll be heading straight to our discourse for today with our first mentor, Mr. Sand Mbakalu. You're welcome, sir. Please, sir, we would like to hear from you. Give us an introduction into today's topic on what IP for business looks like. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Even there is no name to the person speaking, what I want to say is that thank you for the introduction. Even though, just a bit disclaimer, some of the position that was allotted to me, that was previously, I've moved on with some of them, I've completed some of those projects on a different project, but I think in the subsequent editions, you'll be able to get an up-to-date reality of my current experiences. Having said that, this is an ongoing effort. I must commend the initiator of this program. Intellectual property, for me, has been one of those areas that I believe strongly that organizations and countries, as it were, can really, really benefit from if we have the right set of people that understand it. So for those that are behind it, because I know now that there are many people behind it, I can't even call their name. Sophia is the person reaching out to me most times. That's the name that comes to mind. Even the founder is far away somewhere, but it's good that she has been able to put this in the hand of young people that knows what they are doing. So I want to say before we start, congratulations to everybody that has made it this far, even while this is the first meeting, because it takes you some time to be able to articulate your position when it comes to intellectual property, for you to have agreed to come through this journey. As I want to say, congratulations. So is it the time for me to make my presentation? Because I have some slides that I want to share, what intellectual property for business. If I'm permitted, I can share my screen.
Yes, sir, please, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. So I think I have to go out again. Let's see. Okay, so can everyone see my screen?
Oh, okay, it's has started sharing, sir.
Can everyone see my screen or hear me out?
It's not yet up, but it has started sharing. Okay, it's up now.
Okay, it's up now. Fantastic. Okay, so participant can now see your screen. Okay. So thank you very much. I was asked to speak on and to give I was asked to just speak on intellectual property for business. What exactly is intellectual property when we come to the word intellectual property is and for business? What are we exactly referring to? This is the creation of the mind. That is an idea that comes from people's mind that is unique, that people that have the idea should profit from. So what this is trying to say I'm not sure what is going on with my screen, but it's like, well, is this new for, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen.
Okay, so it's the creation of the mind that people have that is unique to them. So what they are trying to do is to protect that creation of the mind that they consider to be unique, to profit from it when it comes to business. So every idea that someone have in the commercial sense for business is to profit from it. However, when we speak about profiting from your hard work, I always bring this in the context of Africa. African protection of IP is different from the world protection that we have not been able to mainstream. However, in this context, we still speak in that general framework that IP for business is to protect your hard work so you benefit from it. So this session will be covering a number of aspects of IP, from trademark, copyright, geographical indication, and in quotes, the controversial part of IP when we call it trade secret. Let me turn my camera on. I hope it would not disrupt the flow, especially when it comes to the network. I think if everybody can see me, that is all right. So we'll also speak on the controversial part, or is it trade secret an IP or not? But a lot of us have agreed that it's an IP, but what protects it and how does a business have it? Because as a matter of fact, trade secret is one of those bedrock that makes a business go far and replicate their model. So IP, as it is, as I've mentioned earlier, is the creation of the mind that are legally protected from unauthorized use by others. It includes invention, artistic work, brand names, designs, and trade secrets. So you see, trade secrets, you cannot divorce trade secret from business, because every business, be it services, be it manufacturers, be it enablers of business have a secret. Maybe it is designed the way they speak to customers, or if it's for fast food, the spice they use is a trade secret. So it's considered as intellectual property because someone's put it together. But is there a place to file for trade secrets? Because when you make it open, but there are other things that you can use to protect your trade secret. You will get to that place anyway. So IP covers a vast range of activities and plays an important role in both cultural and economic life. This importance is recognized by various laws which protect intellectual property as a right. So intellectual property is intellectual property. Then when it's protected, the right comes in. And some people interchangeably use that word, intellectual property right. Most times you say intellectual property right. It can never be a right until it is protected. And within that context of protecting it, there are processes that need to follow, that you need to show that you have that right to protect that intellectual property, that creation of your mind that you felt, oh, if I use this, I go blow. Or if I use this, it will create me, give me comparative advantage or competitive advantage over my competitors. It will make me more better economically wise and maybe cultural wise when we talk about GI and the rest of traditional knowledge. So the importance of securing IP in business. In this part of our plan, in this part of our world, intellectual property for businesses is most times secondary. Even when they know, as a matter of fact, the idea is that most people don't even know. They don't even know that an idea, because when we are starting business, we feel, oh, I'm starting a business, I don't even know who will patronize me. So you can come and pitch to someone, especially in this tech industry, you can pitch every of your secret to someone because you need money. But you forgot that the first thing you should have done is to have protected either your brand name or your idea, because you are not even sure of yourself. So you go about revealing everything from ab initio. So people copy it. I'm based in Abuja. So some people say in those days it used to be a very popular thing. If I give my proposal, people copy. If I present, people copy it. Because you are looking for opportunity. Because you don't even believe in your idea. And the people that are smart sees the idea and they take it and just take away your name and put their name. If in the first instance, you have protected your idea, and when you are pitching, you bring out a letter or a document saying, sir, can you please sign non-disclosure agreement, non-circumvention agreement, because this is an intellectual property I'm presenting. Some will say, why would you present an idea that you don't have never made money from? But if you believe that you make money from it, you understand. And some people advise that the minimum you can do is to file in while you wait for the process, and you start processing. Don't invest all your money into protection before you start making money, which is like what comes for the chicken or the egg. You say, if my idea, someone can steal it and I will not have a right over it because it's first mention or first filing. Now you say, okay, why not make money before you start protecting? So what do? I'm saying, weigh it. If you believe in your idea so much, start the filing, start the process. Then you can then start, even without even protecting it totally because it costs money, you can start allowing people to appreciate your idea by signing the dotted line before you reveal everything. So now, importance of securing your IP. First, it prevents imitation and unauthorized use. That it means when it becomes a right, it gives a competitive edge and differentiation. So iPhone, Android, differentiation is iPhone, is Android. What is the difference? Because some of them have, most of the company of iPhone has been protected. Most of the company of Android phone, generic Android phone is like an open source. Maybe Samsung, let's use the word Samsung, have been protected. So the other importance of protection, importance of securing IP is the revenue generation that it gives to you. It gives you revenue, constant revenue. It gives you ability to franchise your idea. your business. It gives you a ability to sell your IP right. You see music labels selling out. You see cartoons coming up from the music label because it's their franchise. Is their right that they can sell it. So they also give licensing for people to use. So this is why it's the importance of securing it. And fourth is that it enhances your brand value and credibility. Because now, for example, you have a trademark. Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola. It's a known mark. You can't go and say you are producing Coca-Cola because it was given to me in dream. People will just laugh at you because of that IP that has associated to that name, that brand is known globally. It gives the brand value and credibility. It encourages innovation and investment. So, for example, Money Points. Maybe when Money Points started, they were looking for funds, and someone knows that all aspects of the technology that helps in aiding money transfer has been invested and protected. So I can then invest money. In the next 20 years, my investment is protected because the brand name Money Point is protected. The innovation behind Money Point has been protected. The patent. So all this, it encourages people to invest. And it also facilitates international expansion. So one of the things that we have been doing in recent time is to promote the All African IP Summit. And the fundamental reason for doing that is I believe strongly, because as working in international trade for years now, I know that any business that has to expand internationally must have an IP. And we've not gotten African businesses that be able to leverage IP. That is why they cannot really expand beyond their country or beyond their local area. So if you start building IP system, if you protect your IP, you can give that leverage to step out and to go to other country, and it gives you that backing so that nobody steals your idea. So there are different frameworks involved in IP. Moderator, please just time me because I have like 15 slides, but I don't want to go through everything. As much as the slide will be shared, and more or less, I will be listening to the mentees and giving their feedback as well as allowing them. So, how many minutes more do I have?
Yes, sir. You have 10 more minutes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. Let me try and see if I can do justice to it. So, international framework, we have the Paris Convention, the Benin Convention, the TRIPS Agreement, the WIPO, which is under WIPO. As a matter of fact, TRIPS is not under WIPO, TRIPS is under WTO. To tell you when TRIPS, that is the trade, I think the TRIPS is the trade, I've forgotten the full acronym. The trade-related intellectual aspect of intellectual property right. The trade-related aspect of intellectual property right. So now in 1995, when WTO came to fore, one of the things that were signed into law is the TRIPS agreement that speaks to all aspects of intellectual property that has to do with that related to trade. So that reinforces that there's no sustainable international trade without a strong IP system. So within the African region, we have over the years, we've gotten two intergovernmental agencies, ARIPO and OAPI. ARIPO for the Francophone and OAPI for the Anglophone. However, since 1998, since 2018, 2019, and 2020, when AFCFTA, African Continental Free Trade Area, came to force, as of 3 years ago, the protocol on IP was negotiated. So what we will start seeing now is not that ARIPO and OAPI will phase away, but AFCFTA will start playing a more central role as TRIPS played a central role at the multilateral system when it comes to IP, seeing that IP in Africa relates more to trade. So
Mr. Sand, okay. Are you with us now, sir? You went off for a bit. Your speaker is muted, sir.
Sorry about that. this goes to show that we are Nigeria. I think my screen, I'm not sharing my screen. You can see my screen, right?
No, sir, your screen is not up.
Okay, is the network. The network goes on and off. So let me just share this. Okay, so can everybody see my screen now?
Yes, sir, it's back on.
Okay, it's back on. So now, as I was saying, in the coming years, you will see more of AFCFTA IP protocol coming to the fore, because what the AFCFTA Secretariat is trying to do, for some of us that don't know, is that we are trying to create a continental system where Africans can trade more with themselves. African trading with themselves is less than 16%, and it has even dropped after the signing off of this agreement. So what AFCFTA is trying to do is to remove all the barriers that is limiting Africa from trading with themselves, and IP is one of those areas where it can be easy for people to file. As a matter of fact, one of the aspects of the protocol is the aspect of geographical indication, and the protocol agreed that there should be an established register for geographical indication product in Africa, and it will be domiciled in the AFCFTA Secretariat in Ghana. So over time, you start seeing that happen, that even Aripo will still be there, or Apple will still be there, but AFCFTA will start coming on board. You see people filing based on AFCFTA across border. This time is still difficult because Nigeria is not part of Aripo, neither are they part of OAPI. So for you to file as a business in any other Aripo, although we have an observatory status on Aripo, we still have to use an agent there, and they will treat us as most times as third party. So it becomes more expensive. So, but as things evolve, things will get better. For EU, we have the EU Intellectual Property Office, a very powerful institution that not just supports IP growth in EU, they've also gotten so much money and so much influence that they are influencing IP system globally. When a colleague was giving my bio, he mentioned working with AfriIP, that is African Intellectual Property and Innovation Project. This is a project funded by EU IPO. What is the aim? The aim is to support African governments and support African intergovernmental agencies and stakeholders to create an enabling environment for IP in Africa. So these are part of the regional agreement that support regional establishments that support IP globally. So we just picked up Africa, and we just mentioned EU IPO as one of the people Africa has worked with closely. That does not mean that Africa has not also worked with US Patent Office, Trademark Office. They've also supported a number of nations in terms of in Africa when it comes to intellectual property. So the same with enforcement, we have a number of enforcement courts, and rest of it that protect IP. These are framework in place to support IP. So now, let's step it down a little into what exactly are we talking about when we talk about IP and businesses. So one of the things that we talk about is that IP and businesses is like which IP framework are you going to use when you want to protect your business? So it is not open to, so for example, patent in Nigeria, we have patent and design, they are together. You can't be a musician and want to go and use patent. So there are different classes that you can use. So protection of invention, new processes, or technical solution can use patents. So for example, we don't always have power in Africa, and you've now invented how we can use your torchlight, illuminate the whole street or your whole house, and you consider it to be innovation. You can use patent. Then the design, you can also use the design. Then you can then use trademark to then protect the name. So everything has its own processes. Every business have their own unique areas that they protect. So this has always been contested. They contest this issue of innovative. So what is innovative? So our claim is innovative. Yes, it is innovative. So, but we have not been able to, it's one of those areas where when we fight for some products to be patented in Africa, from Africa, they will consider it's not innovative and it will be stepped down. So, but this criteria given is what WIPO uses. So duration is 20 years, and it all depends on the territory. And the territory that protects is all better. I think most countries use 20 years. I think Nigeria also does 20 years. So examples of possible or already patented ideas, especially from Africa context. So we have the mobile payment system from M-Pesa from Kenya. So it makes a lot of people be able to increase the banks and get them into the banking system. So this is some of the examples of products that can be patented. So patented is invention. You can't patent maybe your writing, except it's the type of writing. So that can use the copyright, you understand? So now trademark. Trademark is protect brand name, logos, slogans that distinguish a business. So now we have what this mentorship program. That name, Jiipcc, can be trademark, where you know that the Jiipcc color is gray. Yeah, I see it's gray or brown, can be trademarked. However, for it to be universally protected, so it doesn't mean that it must be gray. You must, when you are filing it, you must file it in black. I think so. So black's where it considers, or gray considers all color. You don't use the current color to protect your stuff. So the process is straightforward, really, and sometimes not too straightforward. If you colleagues, one of the mentors, this is what he has been doing over the years in terms of filing for people and getting them. And I believe that most of us here are lawyers. So when we advise our clients, we also, even when we advise clients, we also ensure that we also trademark our brand identity. So the processes are laid out here. So most times the right can exclusively be due to you for 10 years and renewable. It's up to you if you think you are making money and you have gotten that name. As a matter of fact, when you start making money from your brand name, to become your responsibility to know that you must renew that license. For example, MTN, Dangote, you can't come and start saying you are Dangote Cement. Dangote will sue the hell out of you because it's a brand name. It's a trademark. So even while Dangote is the name of someone, so you can imagine that Dangote has trademarked Dangote. So you can't give birth to a child and name it Dangote. So you just imagine that what is trademark stuff. So maybe you can or Dangote Cement or something, say it's a name. So you can't really do that anymore. ShopRite South Africa is now becoming a global brand name that we know. So copyright, as I said, protect original literary, artistic, and music work, e.g. book, music, film, softwares, artworks. So these are things that can be trademarked. And the duration, most times it all depends. I think it's most times 20 years. No, I think it's 70 years before and after death or so of the author. That has longer years under the Benin Convention. And that is an international protocol. For example, the Chino Achebe, that things fall apart, that has been over the years. So it's an asset for the family. As a matter of fact, I forgot to mention, when you trademark your business, it's not just for you, but it's an asset for the business, because the business is a legal entity on its own. It's also an asset to the shareholders. It's also an asset that can be used to even take facility and invest on people, and even the family estates. So when we look at this, we see all the Nollywood movie that has happened over the years. Most of them are trademarked. You can't just go and just have it, copy someone's music or video and just produce it. That is piracy and it's criminal offense. We see that happen over time when it comes to Africa and Nigeria. And people have also contested this issue that this stuff you talk about, that piracy is intellectual property. As a matter of fact, it's a marketing strategy for Africa. So when I say contextualizing this IP in African reality, Ubuntu comes to play. We share our resources. It's our collective resources. Even if I profit from it, I also market for you. In a way, it's a contextual issue and something that we can debate over as over time. So another one that I've talked about is trade secret really a trademark? Because it's trade secret, you can't reveal it to a third party. It is your business that has it. So now the definition is this: protect confidential business information that gives a company a competitive edge. For example, formula and recipe, in manufacturing processes, software and algorithm, marketing strategy, and customer list. You can't go and give an office somewhere for this. But what you do, why they call it is also a part of intellectual property, because it's also something that aids your business, set your business apart, is that aspect of that instrument. Oh, it wasn't recorded before. There are instruments being used to protect this. For example, non-disclosure agreement with clients or with staff, coding using different code to ensure that it's protected. For example, Coca-Cola. There's a story. I don't know how true this story is. Some people were working for Coca-Cola, and they somehow stumbled on the secret that made Coca-Cola. They took the secret. They went to meet Pepsi. That, oh, pay us some money. We know the secret now that Coca-Cola has been using, because Coca-Cola and Pepsi, they are competitors. What Pepsi did, because they know if these people can steal my competitors and come and sell us, maybe it's a setup, or maybe these guys can abuse. This can also come tomorrow to bite us. They went to report this to law enforcement, and the 2 people or 3 people, the staffs were arrested and they were prosecuted. So now it's like when you have signed an agreement not to reveal something and you go about telling people, it's just like KFC. The recipe for the chicken is global. Every KFC you see everywhere, the recipe is imported and given to them. They don't have their own recipe. So these are all trade secrets. As I've said, protection method is NDA, training in a way, restricted access, and security measures. There is code to know where and how, who gets access to it. And there are legal framework that protect it. The national law, business protection, even the TIPS agreement is an element of it to give us a global, a multilateral system, framework for protection of trade secrets. So one of the things that is so dear to me is geographical indications, traditional knowledge, biodiversity, stuff. Why is it dear to me? Because, for GI, we don't need to just reinvent it. It's already with us. So what is GI? Is that unique thing, that unique product that is tied to a geographical area that the people define how that is. It's like Ogiri or Fura. It's already defined. It's already with the people. The cow comes from the people or equate the clothes. So the people already plan it. So it's not that anybody is telling you, give me a benchmark. And that's why when I say this, that you don't need to define how GI is protected. It's the people that will tell you how it's protected or how it's processed. People say, no, if they are using substandard product, no, it's not substandard product in a way, because if they tell you that okay, for example, Ofada rice have a unique flavor. These two, it has a unique flavor. Some people say it's punchy, it's strong, so it makes some people uncomfortable. But hey, this what makes Ofada rice, and it's served in a leaf. So it is not substandard, it is traditional knowledge that is involved, and it's what makes it Ofada rice. So you must appreciate it from that perspective. So why it's dear to my mind is that we don't need to reinvent, we don't need to say it's innovative, we don't need to go and check the label, we just say this is how we want it. Ogiri smells, in quote, just like cheese smells, because it's fermentation period. But however, it has to be accepted and documented so that people have it. Rubber tea, one of the fantastic tea globally. Rubber tea, if you've not had rubber tea from South Africa, you study it's the most beautiful tea ever. However, we also have it in Nigeria, the Traba tea, but it has not been protected. So most times, The duration is said is to be infinite. There is no duration or time. But however, some jurisdiction gives it maybe 10 years. But people are going by the way of EU saying, if you have a GI product, you should give him the opportunity to be protected infinite because it's for the local people, except until it goes extinct. And what GI over time has reinvented itself and going to invent itself. Is this a money spinning for people? So for businesses, we are thinking about this. A GI business, because GI is for business. That is why you talk about the culture. Is a secondary thing because you have to use money to preserve your culture. Some of us run away from our culture because there's no economic value to it. Rather, they feel this as a burden. So now, why is IP important for business? It gives competitive edge, protection against infringement, maintain revenue, enhance your business value. It's as simple as that. So I would not dwell. This is a case study, Safaricom and Impasa. It gives you an idea of what it happened and the benefit it has accrued to them. So it gives you, this is just a case study. So in conclusion, IP is a valuable asset. I believe we all agree. If we don't agree, and if you think it's not a valuable asset, go and register your business at MTN if CAC will accept it. That is what we give you. And if you think IP enforcement is not the right, go and take Coca-Cola and cup it and pour water inside and say, this is Coca-Cola you're selling. You see what will follow this thing. My people, education advocacy is key for enforcement of IP and the protection of IP. Businesses must be aware of this as they go into business. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, sir, for that wonderful presentation from your end. Very, very insightful. In the few minutes that you had, you were able to cover or run through, everything that pertains to, IP for business in just this short time. We say thank you, and thank you again, sir. So moving on, I think we have our two mentors here with us. We have Mr. Max and Mr. Polarin. So firstly, I would like to hand over to Mr. Max to also just give us a little highlights from the topic of today, and then we'll lastly take a discourse from Mr. Polarin. So over to you, Mr. Max, if you are with us, sir.
Okay, good evening. Confirm if you can hear me.
Good evening, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So let me, of course, start by thanking Jiipcc. It's good to be on another session of Jiipcc. I want to congratulate all the mentees who are here, for making the Jiipcc program. I believe the Jiipcc program is a really wonderful initiative that has helped to really shape the landscape of IP practice in Nigeria by introducing a lot of young practitioners early on in your career circles to what IP is all about and how IP, the IP practice area can become something of a niche and a place for you. Of course, I would also like to thank, first of all, the mentor who has gone before me, Mr. Sand, for such an expansive, look at the entire spectrum of IPs and has, done a lot to cover the field. So by virtue of that, of course, I also want to thank the mentor who is coming after me, a great man who's the laces of whose shoes I'm not worthy to unlace. You would hear Mr. Foreign very soon, and you'll understand why. That is one of the people who brought me to this field of IP. So we can call him a grand mentor because he's also my mentor. So maybe to you, if you say I'm your mentor, then that means you have to recognize him as your grand mentor because he's the mentor to your mentor. So I'll just keep my comments very brief because I believe Mr. Sander has done so much. But typically, when I talk about IP and business, I always like to say two really broad things that I think is important for any young IP professional to bear in mind. One of them, Mr. Sander has done a good job of really honing in that IP actually is valuable. That's when we now talk about intellectual property rights, because intellectual property, in a sense, can't be there hanging in the air. It only benefits a business or an individual when you actually make it a right. A right means that you are taking steps to protect and to maximize the value that comes from it. So one of the ways, of course, Mr. Sanders mentioned is that you have to register. But we are, of course, aware that it's not every IP right you can register. So Mr. Sand dwelt a lot on trade secrets, for instance. You do not have to register trade secrets. I mean, you cannot actually register trade secrets because there is no registry for trade secrets. We also need to know that with copyright, you do not need registration to enjoy your copyright. But however, the Nigerian Copyright Commission has what they call a voluntary deposit system, where you can enhance your protection by doing a deposit of your copyright work. What that does is that it helps you, for instance, to establish the date of production of the work and your ownership of that work. But essentially, your copyright protection arises automatically without you having to register it. But notwithstanding, you can't just say because it arises automatically without registration, that it therefore means that you can just go home to sleep. Of course, there are still measures you have to put in place. You still have to police and protect your rights. So first point is copyright is, intellectual property as a whole is valuable, just like tangible property, the way you protect your phone, your laptops, your car, your houses. You also need to protect your intellectual property. The second broad point I'd like to make is that the intellectual property has become such that it's not only a tangential part of most businesses. There are certain business models or certain industries that without intellectual property rights law would not be able to exist, or would exist, but at a lower level than they currently exist. So one of them, for instance, is the sports industry. We all know that sports now is huge and big business. It didn't used to be so some days ago. So for those of us who are unfortunate to be Manchester United fans like I am, I'll give you a little start from Manchester United. So I was reading an article some time back about how the record they paid, I believe, £300,000 or something like that. And as at then, it was a world record signing, and it was something really huge. But you can see that between then and now, things have changed. I mean, it's $300,000 weekly wage for a player now is commonplace, not talk of a record signing.
Okay,
Record
Mr. Max.
signings have gone way beyond that. And that made it to evolve. Can you still hear me?
Okay. Yeah, yes, sir, we can hear you. Your network seems to be fluctuating.
Okay, my apologies. I think a phone call was coming into my line and disrupted the network. But am I better? Am I more audible now?
Yes, sir, you are. Okay,
thank you. So I'll try to wrap up soon because I know we already spent quite a lot of time. So like I was saying, so the sports industry, for instance, as it stands today, is where it is largely because of IP. So what has happened is that whereas the traditional way to make revenue for sports clubs before now was to take tickets at the gate. So it means if you had a 30,000 seater stadium, you could only make as much money as tickets you could sell. But we know that now the Premier League is no longer like that. The people who get into the stadium in Manchester to watch Manchester United, maybe 60,000 people, but people who follow it across the globe at any given time could be 100 million, 200 million people. So you can see that the revenue stream for that business has expanded exponentially. And all of this is because of a right called broadcast right, which is a version of copyright law that ensures that nobody else can take and broadcast a Manchester United match without the permission of the organizers of that competition. So for the organizers of that competition to give you that permission, they take some money from you. So you can see that they're now making money beyond merely selling tickets. And they're only making that money because intellectual property law has given them the right to control who can take a broadcast of the football across. So there are many other industries that are like that. The pharmaceutical industry is another industry that without intellectual property rights would likely not function. Pharmaceutical companies work by raising money from banks and other investors, using that money to do research and then creating drugs out of that research. So how they make money essentially is that they need to have a monopoly that nobody else can use their research findings for a period of years. That's patent law. So, patent gives them that right to control the secret formula to their drugs for a number of years. That way they can lock anybody else out and they can make premium income. So there are many other industries that are like that. I just use this to highlight to you how important intellectual property can be for revenue stream of businesses, and how some lines of businesses will not even be able to survive or survive at a low level without intellectual property rights. So these 2 points are just what I wanted to highlight. And then when we get to the Q&A session, we'll interact some more, and I'll be able to take some of your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir, for helping us run through that in very, very quick but easy to understand terms, with also examples that we can all relate to. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Max. Our final mentor for today, Mr. Folarin Aluko. Thank you so much, sir, for joining into the call. We would like to hear from you on your own side, your own point of view as regards today's topic.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening,
It's a
sir.
pleasure. Just to be sure that, great, okay. I'll be quick audio check. It's a pleasure. I heard everything that I heard, the entire part of Uncle Max's presentation, or his opine, or his opining or opinion. How I don't know how to frame that coming from a judicial point of view, but that was like a pocket lecture on IP and the role it plays in business. I think I met part of Sam's presentation as well. This is an interesting topic, and I should say it is a pleasure, let me borrow from Max, to be here with you, with everyone once again. This platform, I think one word that came to mind as I was logging in was consistency. And I should say, well done to everyone who makes Jiipcc Academy what it is. So just my quick thoughts, and I should say that Uncle Max is an uncle to all of us. So, if it is possible for a grandfather to have an uncle who is a grandson, I leave us to figure that out, how that is possible. Maybe someone would go and register a copyright for that somewhere. But on a more serious note, talking about IP for business, a lot has been said about the forms of IP protection, that's the IP rights, about the forms of IP that exist today. I think I would like to take a look at this conversation from slightly different perspective, and that is from perspective of business, to kind of make a case as to why IP is important, but looking at it from a business perspective. And the question I'll ask is, number one, what are the fundamental objectives of any business? For a long time, for many years, after the company form was invented under the common law and became a thing, the general opinion was that the objective of companies was to make money for the shareholders of that company. So in other words, to make profit, as Praise said, to make profit for its shareholders. But over time, the idea of what the key objectives of the company are have actually expanded. And I would say that if I summarize those key objectives today, I would say they are, number one, they are financial. So the company has to make money to survive, must make money. Then number two, every company has operational objectives. So the company operates within an industry. And it is imperative for the company to ensure that, number one, that industry is sustainable, or that industry survives and can also grow and thrive. Then you have, there are also strategic objectives. So, and this has to do with the competitive advantage that the company has. So every company, every business now And I'll use those two words interchangeably. Every business wants to be number one. It's rare to find somebody who's a business owner that says, "Oh, I want to be the most unsuccessful business in this industry." So every business wants to be at the top of their game, the head of their food chain, or at the top of the pyramid. And so every company has strategic objectives. And then more recently, this concept of the company as an individual with social responsibilities to society has also become pronounced, where we find companies taking on what we refer to as corporate social responsibilities to their communities, to their hosts, and to even to the environment. So companies also have social objectives today. So you have financial objectives, you have operational objectives, you have strategic objectives, they have social objectives. And this would apply to practically all businesses, regardless of industry, regardless of operational size. I was talking to someone today. We're talking about a company that we're talking about a particular company, and the person said, "Oh, this is a small company," and I remarked jokingly that small is relative, because when you say small, if you're talking about the categorization of small and medium scale enterprises, you'll be talking in Nigeria, that would be from anything from I think a few millions to tens of millions. If you're talking about small in terms of workforce, you could be looking at anything between small in terms of workforce, of course, would mean that the company probably does not occupy a very large surface area. But when you're thinking about workforce size, the workforce size of a company may not have anything to do with the operational capital that company has. So, for example, I would use Flutterwave as an example. I think I did some research about 2 years ago to find that Flutterwave expanded its staff size to about 400 across Africa, 400 staff across Africa about 2 years ago. I stand corrected. But imagine that a company that was already processing billions of naira, was worth billions of naira, and was processing billions of naira almost on a daily basis, at some frequency, had less than 100 staff for the longest time. That is possible for the right people. I'll come to that. So, every company has at least one, every company has these as objectives, whether these objectives are stated or unstated. So the question then is, how do companies achieve these objectives? What are the factors of production, if you may? And for the longest time also, the traditional factors of production have been land. Four factors of production. You have land, you have capital, you have enterprise, and who can tell us the last one? Those of us that did commerce. Land, capital, enterprise, among the mentees. Dennis, are we here?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. We are here with
Okay.
you, sir.
Great.
And
Factors of
entrepreneurship. Okay, label.
entrepreneurship. Yes, that's entrepreneurship or labor. So you have land, capital, enterprise, and labor. In other words, excuse me. It is so. For the longest time, also, it was considered that any business that owns, or for a business to achieve its objectives, must own one or more than one or all, or maximize all of these factors of production. So you must use land, so you must have land, own land, and utilize that land. And usually, land was a big deal during the industrial and I think the immediate post-industrial era. I think we're in the early phases of the post-industrial era. They have capital. Of course, businesses cannot survive without capital, enterprise, and which is entrepreneurship, and then labor. Now, interestingly, as society developed, you may think of it in that sense. The idea that what's it called, companies should have the ability to innovate was often looked at from the point of view of entrepreneurship or enterprise. Innovation was seen as a function of enterprise, and so you had venture capitalists in this bracket, and recognition that the more innovative a business was, the higher its ability to attract new business, new capital, new assets, and so on and so forth. But then the question now is, hello? The question now is, what is the impact of why is IP important for business? And IP has become the recognition of intellectual property as of intangible property that we refer to as intellectual property as practically promoted IP to become what you may consider a fifth factor of production, and define that IP helps companies meet all their objectives. So if you're looking at financial objectives, a lot has been said, IP is an asset, it is property that has value. So IP helps companies meet their financial objectives. As a matter of fact, if you look at, so companies can raise capital through their IP. A company like WhatsApp, an example I use a lot, that does not produce anything in the sense that they don't sell their products, rather. WhatsApp doesn't sell anything, rather. WhatsApp's products are services that are provided practically free of charge. At the moment, I think I understand that there are adverts now that show on some forms or some portions of WhatsApp, meta ads. But if you look at the amount that is paid for these ads versus the subscriber base of the amount of resources that is required to keep WhatsApp running, you find that the ads, of course, do not come anything near the actual value of the platform. So it is the intellectual property that makes it possible for such a platform to operate. Of course, when you look at the value that WhatsApp as an asset adds to Meta's share capital, it's a huge value. So intellectual property helps companies to meet their financial obligations. Of course, in order for IP to do this, that IP must be seen as valuable by the market. So the market must ascribe some kind of value to that. It's a whole different conversation. Then, talking about market objectives, IP should, or IP as an asset, intellectual property asset, and intellectual property rights also help companies to stand out in the market. So whether you're looking at the IP from the point of view of the brand names, the badge of origin, the sign of quality or signal of quality that these brands provide, or you're looking at the ability of companies or businesses to use their patents or their monopoly rights as barriers to entry, or use them as ways to reach out to expand to new markets, and so on. IP helps companies meet their market objectives. And market objectives essentially center around the ability of that company to have a niche for itself and to control a significant part of the market. Of course, IP rights tend to be monopolistic in nature. So there's that interesting counterbalance between intellectual property and consumer protection, and how market forces play in such a way that the market is not unduly taken advantage of by one company. I think of Microsoft in the late 90s and even Google, and very recently WhatsApp. A few weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, WhatsApp suddenly stopped working on the number of phones. And when I say stop working, what happened was that once you use a certain type of phone, if you open that phone, it will tell you update WhatsApp. You couldn't access your messages, you couldn't access anything, not even the settings. And so I asked myself the question, if the app could shut off like that, without warning. Yeah, there have been notices, updates in 2 days, updates in 3 days, but there was no warning that if you didn't update this app, you will be shut out of the app. So the question I ask is, who does the information or the data in that app belong to? Does it belong to me? If it belongs to me, can WhatsApp or can Meta decide to shut me out of the app and stop me from accessing the information that belongs to me? That's an interesting interface between privacy rights and intellectual property, but it's a whole different conversation. But the idea again is that IP gives companies the ability to actually dominate or to carve a niche for themselves in the market. When I look at operational objectives, you know, I think I kind of touched on that when looking at market objectives, but for operational purposes, IP as an asset helps, or when companies own their IP assets that allow companies to establish themselves as service providers or manufacturers that can provide services faster, quicker, better, easier, and so on. IP plays that role. So I think of the algorithms, the source code that is used to write these apps. What's the name now? These fintech apps. I think of PalmPay and OPay. Without this is either an endorsement, not an advertisement. If you're thinking of PalmPay and OPay, you see with some of these and other apps, fintech apps. Sometimes when you're able to carry out transactions, even when there's almost no network, these applications are able to run with very minimal network. And then you have some other applications that require maybe thousands of kilobytes or tens of megabytes to operate. So the IP helps companies meet their operational objectives. And then, of course, you have social objectives. With social objectives, are relatively new in the sense that we now look at companies as citizens who should also find a way to give back to their communities. And there are many ways that companies are able to use their IP to give back. I think we find that in so many ways, IP is very central to what businesses do. And I think at this point, I will pause and then wait to hear back from some of the mentees. I had the opportunity of taking a look at the presentations, and I know some of the issues I have raised will probably come up in the course of the conversation. So thank you very much for having me and for putting this interesting conversation together.
Thank you so much, sir, for that discourse from your end. We sincerely do appreciate your insights, trying to give us a different perspective, as to IP and how it's interplay within business or with business. So we'll be moving on. I want to sincerely apologize for my end because my video is not on. I have some form of challenges that doesn't allow me to do that. So sorry about that. So we'll be taking presentation from our mentees, group 1 and then group 2. Please, presentation time is 7 minutes, right? Presentation time is 7 minutes. Let's try to stick to time so that we can finish within a good time. So group presenter for group 1. Please, can you kindly share your screen, start your presentation, and try to round up within the allotted time? All right, thank you, Mr. Akinwale. Please, you can go ahead and start your presentation. Okay, please, who is the presenter? Do we have the presenter in class? Oh, all right,
Yes,
please go.
Mr. Samad, Abdul Samad, I think is the presenter, but he said he is a Muslim, and I think they are having a prayer right now, so someone else will be presenting on his behalf.
All right, that's fine. Please, can we quickly have that so that
Okay.
we can move on?
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry for the delay. I was having problems. So thank you to our wonderful speakers. Thank you to the organizers for this opportunity. We appreciate it. So now, today we are going to be, with the group members of Group 1, we have compiled a presentation titled Introduction to Intellectual Property and Business for Business. So generally, our speakers have told us all about intellectual property, and they have made us understood that intellectual property goes as far into sports, health, and even technology. So there's no limit to intellectual property. But now we are not going to focus on how intellectual property dives into different sectors of the economy. What we are just interested in today is intellectual property for business. So, as we all know, IP is a crucial asset for business in today's knowledge-driven economy. And we already know what intellectual property already entails. Yes, we already know what intellectual property already entails. So, please, next slide. Next. Okay, so there are various types of intellectual property. There are various ways IP law protect a person's intellectual property, that is through trademarks, patents, geographical indications, and etc. But today we are going to look at how only trademarks and patents protect intellectual property for business. So first of all, what is a trademark? So trademark a trademark can be seen as a person's very own signature on his products. And the World Intellectual Property Organization has defined a trademark as any sign or combination of signs used to distinguish the goods or services offered by one undertaking from those offered by another. So trademarks can take the forms of words, figures, holograms, even colors, even texture self. So trademarks can be in different forms. But so for something to be trademark, it must be distinct. So what do I mean by that thing must be distinctive? I would like to use the example of Apple. So if you notice the way Apple, they trademark their technology related stuff with Apple. They do not trademark it with something like computer or etc. And then a fruit store cannot trademark its fruits with Apple, because then it will not be descriptive. It will not be distinctive rather. Then the second one is that it must not be deceptive. So deceptive in the way that you're bringing it to the audience that this your goods is this, meanwhile it is not this. But I don't want to go deep because of my limited time. The next thing I'm going to talk about is patent. So what is a patent? A patent is kind of a monopoly granted to inventors of technological related. Yes, patents are monopoly granted to people for them to use their work. So the next thing I'm going to enter is IP licensing and IP licensing. So what is IP and what is licensing first? Licensing, as it ordinarily connotes, is giving a person the authority to use something. So IP licensing is giving a person the authority to use your intellectual property rights. Okay, before I go into IP licensing, it's important to know that one thing about intellectual property that is exclusive. Only you, the inventor, and maybe a very few associated person is going to enjoy that intellectual property right with you. So that's one importance of intellectual property. It provides for exclusivity, where you're the only one who can enjoy that your right or enjoy the benefits or the proceeds of profits that comes from exercising that your rights. So now I want to go business owners of business normally license their IP rights. How do they do this? They sell the rights to maybe broadcast, like how one of our presenters was saying, these sports people, they sell their broadcasting right. Now they're giving the radio stations and the TV stations the authority to broadcast their football matches, something that is a right that is originally exclusive to them alone. So IP licensing is selling your intellectual property rights. Please, before I continue, am I clear?
Yes, you are very clear. Yes, you are clear. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. Thank you. So, moving further, please give me 1 second. Okay, moving further, I've given you a general overview of intellectual property. I've talked about patents, I've talked about trademarks, and I've talked about IP licensing. The next thing I'm going to be, what's my time? I have 3 more minutes. Okay, the next thing, for want of time, the next thing I'm going to talk about is IP franchising. So generally what franchising means is like a situation whereby a person who has developed a certain way of doing business gives another person the right to use that business model in exchange for a fee or royalty, providing that the business has built a certain reputation and brand recognition. So franchising, what IP franchising generally entails is that the owner of the IP right now has authorized another person to sell or distribute his goods and services. So there are certain goods that we will buy, and then on the body of or on the packet of the goods, we'll see distributed by so and so company. So now that company now that is distributing it has been given franchise rights. Let me just put it like that. And then the original company that owns the IP has given and it has engaged in IP franchising. So one importance of IP franchising is that human beings are not so versatile, and then what is it called? Sometimes distance may be a barrier in spreading or in monetizing your IP rights. So IP franchising kind of allows people to what is it called? Expand their IP rights. I don't know if I'm clear, Sha. Or I don't know if I said it in a way that is clear. So the next thing I want to talk about, okay, for example, Coca-Cola companies, if you check the body of it, you see their distributors and rest. It's not necessarily the company that distributes the drink, but because due to IP franchising, they can now reach a versatile number of customers. So now the next thing I'm going to talk about is IP exports. So like our presenter earlier said that some IP rights are confined to a legal system, they are confined to how I was talking about TRIPS agreements and all those things, how the common law system is different from the civil law system, even in the registration of IP rights. So now what do a business person who owns an IP right do in order to expand how he can gain profit from his IP rights? He exports his IP. So since he knows that, okay, this I start a business in a common law country, and ordinarily it cannot, since I register under the TRIPS agreement, it will okay, since I register under the TRIPS agreement, only common law countries will be bound by my IP right. Only them will be bound by the IP laws that they should not distribute my work or my idea. But now I want to expand to the francophone country. What I will do is IP exports. So an example of a person who did this IP exporting is the writer of Harry Potter. So what she did is that she interpreted Harry Potter to various languages so that even in those countries, they'll be protected by copyright. We know that copyright is not, you don't need to go to anybody to register. Once you just write your book, it's copyrighted. But for her to ensure that in this different legal system, the book is protected by IP, she had to, she had to protect it. She had to translate it to various dialects, rather. I'm so sorry. So my time is up. The slide is going to be sent to everybody. But now I have a question for our presenter. And the question, while we were compiling our work, we came up with this question. And it says, when trademark is done in Nigeria and the businesses where the trade covers now expand internationally, does the trademark cover it, or is there need to register trademark in all the countries? We have understood that there's there's a body of trademark for each geographical region, for example, West Africa, Africa, EU, and stuff. But if I register my trademark in Nigeria, for example, and I register it under one of these IP conventions, is there still need for me to register? If I register my trademark rather under one IP convention, is there still need for me to still register that trademark in another country that IP, or another country that the IP convention does not govern? I don't know if I'm clear. Am I clear?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation from your end. Sorry, I did not get your name. Please, can you come again with your name?
My name is Perezidor Bubaha. Perezidor Dorcas Bubaha.
All right, thank you, Dr. Lucas, for that wonderful presentation from your end and trying to stick to time. We really, really do appreciate the effort you put into the presentation and also the collective work that your group has done to make the presentation. We'll be taking, I'm sure our mentors will be answering your question during the question and answer segments. But before we get there, we would like to take Group 2's presentation, and then we'll have feedback from the mentors. So please, can we have Group 2 presentation? The presenter for Group 2, are you with us?
Yeah, good evening, everybody.
Yes,
please, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, let me share my screen. Sorry. Sorry, I'll be using my phone. I was unable to set my laptop. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rosemary Egu, and I'm representing Group 2 on intellectual property for business. Members of this group are Deborah Oyedijo, Hannah Felatin, Chinedum Mbagu, Rosemary Egu, Grace Effiong, and Fortune Diko. As we all have heard from our mentors, and they have given us insights on what intellectual property is all about. So I will be talking more on copyright and industrial design. So copyright, as we all should know, is an exclusive right over a product or work. and it protects the original creative work, cover books, music, film, software, etc. Please, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Copyright is a form of is a kind of right protection over over your work for an exclusive rights and such grant of rights. Then on industrial design, it protects the virtual design of a product, the cover shape, pattern, color, etc. Then how copyright works, it prevents unauthorized use for such product or your work, and it ensures revenue generation for creators. That is like when you have exclusive rights over your products, no other company or person is authorized to use it, then you can actually have much revenue in selling your product because there is no other person in the market having that same product or is authorized to use your patent or whatever, your trademark. Then the case study here we have is the J.K. Rowling. That is the Harry Potter series. It's earned over billions in book sales because that trademark is very peculiar to them. They have that copyrights for their products, so it's very very exclusive to them, and they can actually grant it to anybody for use. And then you are not authorized to use it unless granted by them. We have wide register for industrial design to prevent imitation, that imitation by other companies or individuals organizations. It enhances brand uniqueness and increases market value for such products. Example is the Coca-Cola bottle design. As you all can see, the Coca-Cola, how it is like it's very very familiar to us, how it is designed, and it is trademarked and globally recognized, and it has generated revenue for the company, because that particular trademark is very, very peculiar to them. Then IP management, intellectual property management, that is the handling and protecting patents, trademark, copyright strategically, like how this organization or company can strategically handle and protect their copyrights and their trademark is very, very peculiar to them to prevent unauthorized use. Then the benefits of intellectual property management, it prevents theft, increases business income, and generates passive income for such company. Then we have intellectual property assessment and valuation. Determining the worth of intellectual property, weighing the assets, the value to determine to have a fixed amount of money. Then it helps in mergers, sales, and investments. Benefits of such intellectual property evaluation, we have it attracts investors, and it helps in negotiation. You can't come and start pricing all over again, and it increases the company worth. We also have trade secrets and confidential information. Trade secrets, as our mentor said, is a kind of secret. Like every company has a secret on how they process their products. Like every company have this kind of secret that they can't share to others, and then even their customers, they will have a kind of negotiation or agreement with them not to disclose their secrets to others or outsiders. Example is like their recipes, their formulas, and their processes, how they handle their things. The case study here is the Coca-Cola secret formula. And then, yes, the Coca-Cola secret formulas, which have also helped them to generate a lot of money. In conclusion, intellectual property is a valuable business asset. Then you have to protect it, manage, and assess it for long-term use. Thank you so much. I don't really have much to say. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rosemary, for that presentation. Well done to you and your team. I was trying from my end to bring your slides up. I couldn't really have access to it on time, so sorry I did not help with sharing of your slides. Now we'll be going back to our mentors. We'd just like to hear from them based off of the presentations that were made by the mentees. We would like to just hear from them from their own angle and point of view what were their takes from the presentation, what they would like us to know better, and if there are any corrections they would like to set in motion. So we'll start over again from the top with Mr. Sand. Mr. Sand, are you still with us, sir? Mr. Sand? Okay, I don't think Mr. Sand can hear us at the moment. So we'll be going back to Mr. Max Nkombe. Mr. Max, do you have any feedback for our mentees? Do you have any other contributing take that you would like to add to the discussion for today? Please, can someone confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes, I
All right, so
Yes, sir, you are.
okay, so if Mr. Max and Mr. San can't hear me, we'll move over to Mr. Polarin. Mr. Polarin, sir, are you with us?
Hold on, sir. I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
So I had the pleasure of listening to the presentation, or well, reading the presentation ahead of time, and then now combined with the pleasure of listening to the presentation on impact. Well done. And I liked how the presenters tried to come at the issues from different perspectives. We are talking about IP. Sometimes it appears as though you can quickly run out of what to say after someone has made a presentation. But I think a lot of time our positions are really limited to what is the trademark, what is patent, what is design, and so on and so forth. But of course, I think the conversation around intellectual property actually is much larger than what is the trademark, what is patent, so on. And in particular, this topic of we're talking about IP. Am I audible now?
Your volume is low, sir.
It's a little low. Okay.
Yes.
Let me take the mic up a little. So I was saying that you know, how's it now?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay. So I was saying that you know, a lot of the time our conversations around intellectual property tend to be limited to what is a trademark, what is a patent, what is trade secrets, what are industrial designs, and so on. But you know, talking about having a conversation about IP in business, I think conversation should be to emphasize how important IP is to business and how it is that if IP is so important to businesses in terms of their fundamental objectives, in terms of from the perspective that our mentees raised, the ability of the business to raise capital and so on. The question then is, how is it that Nigerian businesses, let's bring it home, are able to operate or function without protecting their IP? Because whether you like it or not, once you register a business, once you're operating as a business, you already have intellectual property. At the very least, you have a reputation as a business. You know, and you can stretch that even if you have, and this applies at any level, at every level of operation. So you go to the market and there's an Iya Basira that is selling rice somewhere, and everybody is going to Iya Basira. You know, that Iya Basira is a reputation. So whether I like it or not, every business has IP. In fact, in today's knowledge-driven or information-driven, as one of the groups put it, in today's knowledge-driven world economy, your IP is actually more important. It's a more important component of your business than some of your tangible property, some of the tangible property of that business. So, well done. Somebody asked a question about trademark registration. I'm not sure I caught it, but I think it has something to do with the territorial nature. What happens if you register a trademark in one jurisdiction, and then the business now wants to expand and you want to register and you want to operate in another jurisdiction? The answer is very simple. You register it in that jurisdiction, because trademarks operate on a territorial basis. You must register them from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. At the moment, there are some systems that allow for some sort of one-stop shop registration or provide one-stop shop registration services. But at the end of the day, every country, every jurisdiction has its own rules on what is registrable and what is not registrable, what words are considered, what brands are considered to be distinctive and what brands are considered to not be distinctive. So they have their rules. So that business owner have to register that trademark in whatever jurisdiction that they intend to do business. And of course, if in the course of registering it in a new jurisdiction, one runs into issues, then you have to address those issues. It comes to the territory, or that business may have to reconsider the means by which it intends to operate in that country. There are some agreements, international treaties that allow. Oh, Uncle Max is back. Welcome back, sir. I'm keeping the seat warm. As I wrap up, there are some treaties that allow for, just that we don't complicate this, that allow for the recognition of registration dates, of course, subject to certain provisions. So with patents, you have the PCT, for example, that would allow an inventor to retain the date of priority, so the date that he or she needs an application in another country that is also a signatory to that treaty. So allow them to retain that date in the second country of registration. So at the end of the day, your trademarks are registered per country or per jurisdiction. So it is not unusual to find situations where countries, companies, or businesses, while expanding, discover that they may not be able to register, or some brands may not be registrable in other jurisdictions that they are interested in. At that point, there may be need for a review of their strategy. So that's an attempt. I hope that answered that question. I'm sure Max will shed more light on this.
Thank you so much, Mr. for helping us with those feedbacks and also trying to answer the question that was asked by Group 1. Thank you so much, sir. We really do appreciate. So, Mr. Max, thank you for joining back to the class. Please, I would like to just get a little feedback from you and maybe any additional discourse or highlights from the topic that you would like to share with us.
Okay, thank you again. My apologies. I had to just jump on a quick call. Yeah, so I looked at the presentation of both teams. I couldn't listen to the live presentations completely, but I want to commend both teams. I think you did a good job. Like I tell people, every time I come on Jiipcc, I'm always full of commendation for the mentees. It's not merely that I'm just trying to like we'd say in Nigeria, not that I'm just trying to watch you guys. It's because where I started from in IP, when I was, maybe still at the early stages of my career, like most of you were, I didn't know anything about IP. So anything I see you guys do at this level for me is commendable, because you are already laying the foundation to have, a successful career in IP. Of course, Mr. Fola who spoke was one of the people who saved my blushes when I was still a baby in Pampers. So far as IP was concerned, those are the people who pointed me, in the right direction. So of course he'll be modest about it, but please do not believe, his modesty at all. He's really been quite a force. Of course, I'm sure most of you are aware he runs is the founder of the Intellectual Property Law Association of Nigeria, a powerful organization doing a lot in the IP space as well. So by way of feedback from the two presentations, first of all, like I said, I commend both of you. For, I believe it's group 2, I really love your slides. They were simple, but I loved the way you used the graphics alongside the slides. For group 1, I thought your slides were a little bit wordy. They were not like they were bad, but sometimes having graphics break up slides just helps. When a slide is just full of words, sometimes it can be a little scary, it can be a little intimidating, but the content was good though. So I just think maybe you could have done, the packaging a little bit differently in terms of have more graphics and then less of text, so that way the graphics do a lot of the talking for you, and then your text simply just throws some more light on the graphics. But overall, I thought the content of both presentations was really good. Then there was a question, I believe that's group 1 had that question. I believe that's the question Mr. Folan had spoken about. I'll just say a few things about it. That's the question, I believe it was group 1 that asked, when trademark is done in Nigeria and the business spreads internationally, does the trademark cover it, or does it need to register the trademark in all the countries where the business now operates? So this is a very good and practical question. But again, it's also, and I believe I heard Mr. Folari and Luko mention this, the fact that just the same way, if you have registered your business in Nigeria and you want to start operating in Ghana or in the UK and all, you have to register a new company, in that local jurisdiction. It's in the same way as well. Your trademark will not automatically carry over across. But like Mr. Aluko has said, there are ways to, technically, there are no international intellectual property rights. All intellectual property rights are domestic or they are territorial. They are granted locally by every country and are enforceable and binding within the geographical territory or the jurisdiction of that country. However, there are certain ways you can earn, in a sense, in brackets now, international intellectual property rights. That is, intellectual property rights that are applicable or that are binding in multiple countries at the same time. So, of course, we have different ways. We have the international treaties. We have the regional intellectual property organizations. Mr. Sand, in his presentation, mentioned ARIPO, which is an association of about 18 or 19, mostly Anglophone African countries. So with that system, you can register a trademark and have it become operational in almost all the countries in that block. You also have the OAP, which is a block of, I think, 16 or 17 now, mostly Francophone African countries. But there's a difference between OAP and ARIPO. In OAP system, once you register an IP, intellectual property like trademark, in the OAP system, automatically you are protected in all the 16 or 17 member countries. But for ARIPO, it's not exactly that way. For ARIPO, what your registration with ARIPO does is that it grants you it gives you the opportunity through one application to potentially get protection in all the countries or the ones you designate in that application. So while the OAP is a unitary system where the moment your application goes in, you have protection, the ARIPO is not exactly like that. So the same way also we have international systems like for trademark, we have the Madrid system, which allows you essentially use one application to potentially be able to register a trademark in multiple. I believe at the moment the Madrid system has close to 100 countries involved in that system. We have for patents the PCT, Patent Cooperation Treaty, where you have over, I think, 140, maybe 142 or 43 countries currently covered by that system, where you potentially can get a patent registered and applicable in 140 countries just using one series or protocol of applications. It's a little bit more complicated than what I'm saying, but it's broken down to its basics. Essentially, what it gives the opportunity to do is to be able to register your IP across many countries at the same time. So the systems are not exactly that way, but the answer to the question is clear. Your trademarks will not just fly with you across borders. You have to take steps or any other intellectual property, you have to take steps to also protect them when your business is expanding across borders. And actually, one vulnerability point for businesses where they need an IP consultant to advise them properly is when they are expanding across borders, because there are all kinds of funny things that happen. So, for instance, with the Madrid system of registering international trademarks, there's something we call a central attack. So the rule under the Madrid system is that if your trademark is registered in your home jurisdiction or the primary jurisdiction before you do the international registration, if anybody is able to attack that registration in the first 5 years and nullify it, then automatically your international registration is invalid. But if it survives that first 5 years, then even if somebody is able to knock it off in that home country, your international protection is still valid. So that's a tactical issue. So these are issues that is where you need an IP consultant to tactically guide a business who is looking at going international. So for businesses going international, they definitely need an IP consultant, just the way they need business consultants to guide them through that process, financial consultants and that. They absolutely need an IP consultant to help them navigate that terrain. So thank you. I know I've spoken quite a lot. So back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marks. Thank you so much for that insightful feedback from your end. I'm sure you highlighted a few things that I'm sure that our mentees should be actually paying very, very much attention to, especially as regards to, the IP registration cross jurisdiction. So thank you, sir. Do we have Mr. Sand with us? Sir, are you back with us?
So sorry, I had to step out. Still in the office, need to do something in the office. But I heard Mark's last submission. I think basically listening to him, he has said almost everything. What I would just my own intervention would be more or less it's less of a technical part. It's just the presentation style. I think for group one, a lot of text indeed, but I was wondering why it was dark or true. Because when we say IP for business, IP itself does not profit a business. So as Mr. Lucas rightly pointed out, it's not trademark, it's not the generic one, which I also mentioned, it's also beyond that. But IP itself also has some element that makes it IP. The value of IP, she also has to do with the packaging and the branding. So if you are presenting and you made all your word dark, I couldn't even read it because I had bad eyesight. And something that we have to review and look at it. But again, it shows that there are efforts that went into it. And as I've said earlier on, my interest in IP is about the commercial part of this. So I might not be able to, because I'm not a lawyer, I'm a trade person. Knowing fully well that trade part is key to IP succeeding. So if you say you have an IP, you can't brand it, you can't market it, it becomes an item somewhere, or an idea. It still becomes an idea. You can't create credibility around this just from an idea. So everything has to go with it. So while we make presentation, this is a learning curve. Let's also be conscious about it. So make a little bit, not too long wordings, because I can't tell you that you have done wrong in terms of researching and putting your text together. But you should make it IP friendly or users friendly. So that's what I would say for group one. For group two, when the world of AI, I saw, yes, even why you use a lot of graphic, but yeah, if there will be a disclaimer, I would say AI will say they gave you 99% of what you presented. And we have to be careful about that in terms of the graphic you brought in and everything. Use it ethically well. We can't isolate ourselves or go out of AI. So let's be conscious about that. I don't want to go into the technical part because I believe the other two mentors has adequately addressed them. But I believe, again, that some of us did not have this opportunity that we had. The opportunity we had was learning by doing, and we didn't run to anybody to mentor us, they didn't speak to us about it. So this is a privilege you should not take lightly. And I know other mentors will also come to give you their own perspective in different aspects of the course that you do. Take it serious and take the lessons that have been taught to you during this process. Above all, and in general, I believe people have done well. If it's one thing that you are doing, you are working as a team. And anyone within the team that is not contributing, you are just changing yourself. This is what makes you grow in the industry that you want to choose, be it IP practitioner, be it an IP expert, be it an IP advisor, be in a policy space, be it a business space. You need a teamwork. So try as much as you can to participate in that aspect. I believe when you have this opportunity of someone speaking to you, you should learn all around. You can be bookworm, you can be intelligent, but if you can't work with a team, you go nowhere. If you are bookworm and you are intelligent, you can work with a team. If you can't brand it, you might take it somehow. But if you are intelligent and you are branding it and you can't market it, it's other stuff. So I'm just saying, well done. You started well. Some of us don't have this opportunity. Take it with all seriousness. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sand, for that feedback from your end. So now what we'll be going over to is we'll be taking questions. We are almost spent on our time for the class. So we'll quickly take questions from the mentees. Do we have questions on the sides of the mentees? Are there questions we would like to ask? Do we ask our mentors? Please, I'm sure that our mentors will do well to answer, in every capacity that they can. At least we've already have gotten a taste of them answering, the question that was asked by group 1. So please, can we have live questions in this session? Do we have anyone with a question? Take advantage of the presence of the mentors, ask questions just to better help clarify any place you may have some kind of misconception in. Do we have questions?
Oh, yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, dear mentors. Thank you for your time. My name is Fina, and I'm so delighted to be here. My question goes to Mr. San. I listened to your presentation. They were well spelled out, and apparently intellectual property is one area I so desire to pursue my career in. In terms of selling out of franchise, I know that the last time I had a client who actually told me he wanted to buy a franchise of Kilimanjaro. And the idea of how he wanted his restaurant to be, he had created it. But Kilimanjaro says, if we are going to sell our franchise to you, you must employ our standard. You must use our logo. You must use everything that concerns us. In fact, we are going to give you our workers who will begin the business, and as time goes on, you employ other workers, but yet will be trained by our workers. Now, these are the old things that came with Kilimanjaro's franchise. And my client said he cannot go by that. He only needs the franchise to sell his food business. In this case, is it not a limitations on the part of my clients that the franchise he is buying cannot allow him explore his own opportunities? So what then is the need for buying the franchise, aside the fact that Kilimanjaro is already a popular brand, everyone knows Kilimanjaro, and yet he cannot exercise his business the way he wants to, simply because he's buying a franchise? And then my number 2 question comes up, intellectual property. You mentioned that whenever people make maybe videos, just like we have on Facebook, YouTube, and what have you, people make videos and then post them, and then any other person, I'm so guilty of that act, any other person just picks up this video and then reposts and then make money out of it. If the person the original owner of the video doesn't intellectualize his property, in the sense that maybe he's trademarking it, or probably putting his logo or what way or the other, it's not a copyright. Please, I think that part I really do not understand it, because I want to have a feel that if, for instance, because on the side I do real estate. If, for instance, I do real estate in my way of doing real estate, and then I use the name of my real estate company as 12 luxury properties to put my logo on the property, and then someone else picks up the property and then reposts, I feel that logo I've already put out there is enough to be able to trademark. I mean, in the real sense, is enough to be able to trademark that particular post I'm making out in the name and in the objectives of my company. Please, can there be a clarity on that if I'm not right on it? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for having me.
Right. So thank you very much. I will attempt to answer your two questions, and I also allow other mentors in terms of them also speaking to explain the aspect of the second question. Amarachi, I didn't get your name, but thank you for that intelligent question.
Fina, my name is Fina.
Okay, Fina, thank you very much for that intelligent question. So I think your clients is losing out. So one of the reasons why a franchise is sold is because the owner of the franchise has a system put in place. He's selling the system. So you can't come and tell him or her what you should do or what they should do. There is a system they are selling. They're not, when we talk about brand, reputation, and value, is the system we are selling. We say this is how, it's just like McDonald's. Okay, I will stick to Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro has, if you look at all Kilimanjaro, in every of their establishments, in every community, they have a location. As a matter of fact, the choice of location is key to them. How the setting is also key to them. You can't just come and say, give me your franchise, give me your name, and I'll go and create. No, it doesn't work that way. As a matter of fact, we don't have, I might be wrong, but I know that this time we're putting for a regulatory policy for franchise in Nigeria. I doubt if, but globally, franchisee buys or sells or buys the branding, the product standard, the operational procedure, and the health and safety measures. You cannot do otherwise. They're even liberal to tell him that as time goes on, he can or she can employ her own staff and train them. So, as a matter of fact, let her go and grow her own brand. You don't need Kilimanjaro, then you can start your own brand from zero and build your reputation going forward from there. So secondly, your second question, I don't know if I've done justice to that, but I will allow other mentors to also comment to that. But what he's asking for is not acceptable. It's not a style of franchise. They give you the work plan and the manual to work with. So in copyright, by documenting or singing it, your words are already copyrighted. But however, you can then go about and filing it. So if you say you have a logo, it's a different thing from copyright. If, for example, you release a song and someone else plays it and make money from it, that is infringement. That is, and produces and sells is piracy. But people have argued, say, looking at the case of Nollywood, that most of those days when cassette, those days when we were growing up, it was cassette that we used, in recording, HVT. We used to play Nollywood, not digital. People double it and they sell. And people have argued that was what made Nollywood what it is. So it was a form of marketing. So if someone takes your logo and appropriate it to themselves, it's an infringement. It's not copyright now. It's a trademark. It's infringement on your trademark, because your logo is trademark. You can only trademark your logo. But in terms of your artistic work, you can copyright it. And when you write it, even if someone will say, one of the things to do, if you, for example, you write a book or you read a music, you can send to yourself so that there will be a record that you are the owner and they can be traced to you. So anyone that infringed on that can then be sued or something like that. I don't know if I've done just today, but I'll allow Max, Mr. Loko, to also make the intervention.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sang. Please, do we have any?
I'm inviting Max, Mr. Moderator. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Sand. I think you've laid a very good foundation to answering that question, and I'll just add a few things on the franchise question, because recently I've done some work for a client who took one of the popular Nigerian franchises, not Kilimanjaro, but one of the close Nigerian franchises. And franchise is it's a funny business model. But what we need to understand about franchising is that there are several reasons, and to address your question directly, there are several reasons why a franchisor, that is the owner of the franchise, will insist that you maintain exactly the same franchise. Now, there's the issue of brand dilution and tarnishment. So dilution, to an extent, just simply means that a person, uses your brand in a way that no longer makes your brand very clear and distinctive in the market. So if every Kilimanjaro eatery uses a very bright, I believe, if you'd correct me, I think it's they have like almost a red or orange color, and I think there's some yellow in it, but very bright colors. And they allow somebody to take their franchise and they do not monitor, for instance. And that's another intellectual property right we did not mention. There's what we call a trade dress. So a trade dress is different from a trademark and a trade name. A trade dress essentially is a look and feel of a location. So the way the shop looks, the color, the type of table, the type of furniture, the uniforms, the staff, where the overall look and feel. When you walk into any Kilimanjaro in Nigeria, you know you are in Kilimanjaro, because the Kilimanjaro in Port Harcourt, the one in Lagos, the one in Abuja, they have the same look and feel. So brand dilution happens where you allow people take your brand, but they now use it in different ways. So a person takes the Kilimanjaro brand and now uses purple instead of red. So a time comes where people can no longer tell when they are in Kilimanjaro or not. So that's dilution. But the more worrisome reason why a franchisor will not allow you tweak or touch his business model in any way is tarnishment. Tarnishment can happen in many ways. One of the common ways is that if Kilimanjaro allows everybody to take the Kilimanjaro franchise to just do what they like, a time comes when somebody goes to Kilimanjaro, he has a bad experience, and is going to write off all Kilimanjaros and say Kilimanjaro has lost quality. So part of the reason why the franchisor wants to maintain that is that he wants to be sure that his franchise would give customers the same experience every time they walk into a Kilimanjaro franchise. He doesn't want anybody walking to a franchise to think, oh, this is different from the one I went to in Lagos. So that's the aim. And to tell you that franchisors go a long way. In every franchise, what we call a franchise Bible. The franchise Bible essentially is an operational document that says everything about how that franchise will be run, everything from the accounting system to the operations, the menu, and all of that. But some franchises are taking it further. So we all know McDonald's. McDonald's has a whole university called the Hamburger University, where they train people who operate their franchises. So just like you mentioned when asking the question, part of what they'll do is that one of their people trained who are certificated from that McDonald's Hamburger University must come and be some of the foundational staff who get that business up and running, to ensure that as much as is humanly possible, the experience of every McDonald's franchise is the same across. But when it comes to franchising, I mean, if your client wants something less stringent, he can go for licensing. He can go for a trademark license, where he simply takes the right of to put up to use the name of an eatery as their licensee in a location, and then he's free to do what he wants to do. But when it comes to franchising, there are lots of rules and regulations that you must keep by if you are going. So, for instance, the franchise I did now, part of the obligations, which is almost standard, is that every 3 years, the physical space of the restaurant has to be redone in terms of, and the redoing is not good. You won't be able to hire your own workers to do the repainting and renovation. You have to hire workers authorized by the franchisor. They are the only ones who are allowed to come there and do any renovation work in that premises. To as much as buying the spoons and the cutlery, you must buy them from the owner of the franchise. So it's that detail. So when it comes to franchise, it's rigid. It's like military, as in it's regimented. You must do exactly what the franchisor says, and that's the whole point of a franchise, to ensure that experience is uniform across all outlets of that franchise, even though the franchise is owned and operated by different people. But as much as the uniform experience must apply all through the outlets of that franchise. So I just thought to add some of that points. This is something I've worked on recently. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Max, for helping with that question alongside Mr. San. Thank you so much. Please, do we have any more questions? Okay. There's a question from Beatrice. She's saying, sorry, let me try and see if I can get your question. All right. Beatrice is saying, let's say a filmmaker intends to make a movie of someone's life. Let's say someone renowned. What type of IP does this fall under, and what steps can be used to obtain necessary permission? Do we have any method that we want to address this particular question?
Okay, so maybe I can say a few things about this, because incidentally, again, is something I did some work on recently, so it was quite a controversial issue. It was quite popular. We ultimately had. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Please confirm you can hear me. My apologies.
Yes,
I had a phone call that slowed me down for us. So I was saying, incidentally, is another issue I worked on recently. Was quite a high-profile, controversial issue. A movie was made about someone's life, and the necessary clearance was not sought. There was no proper agreement and documentation done. But ultimately, I had to advise my client to pursue another type of settlement, which we did, and I'll say a little bit about that. But typically, if you are making a movie about someone's life, what we need to understand first and foremost is that technically, in a sense, there's no real intellectual property right that in a way protects that. And let me explain what I mean by that. Because we need to understand is that the primary intellectual property right that would apply to a movie in this context would be copyright. But remember that we have mentioned copyright belongs not to the subject of the copyright matter, but to the author or the creator of that copyright work. So simple example, when somebody takes your picture, you are the subject of that picture, but the copyright in that picture belongs to the person, the photographer who took that picture, the author or the creator of that work. So despite the fact that you are the subject matter, you are the person who is in that picture, but because the picture was made by the photographer, so far as the copyright law is concerned, the definition of copyright vests the right over that picture in him, who is the author or the creator of that work. So to a large extent, when it comes to somebody making a movie about your life, that is the primary principle on which we will first of all proceed. But however, Mr. Folayanko mentioned this, there's a part where IP now intersects with other types of law, privacy law, for instance. So the fact that you're making a movie about someone's life now, it goes beyond just IP. There's also the privacy elements of it. The fact that the person has the right, to, his likeness, to his image. So we also talk about image rights and all of that. So it's a complex mix of issues that come together when that is done. Sometimes also it's even not about the person anymore, but about the third parties. Because if you make a movie about my life, you are going to feature possibly my wife, you're going to feature possibly my children, you are featuring possibly my mom and other people who are also in my life. So you can see that the matter goes beyond simply the subject matter of the movie. But usually what would happen is you have to do, there are largely two types of agreements. There could be what we call a life rights agreement, that allows the filmmaker essentially to do an adaptation of the story of that person's life. There could also be a biographical rights agreement, which is similar, but maybe more specific in scope. So it could be more focused on particular areas of the person's life. But what you need to note is that in making that movie, beyond signing an agreement with the subject of that right, there are many other agreements that come into giving you the right to actually use that person's life and that person's story. But absolutely, you cannot. So sometimes another thing that happens is that they make a movie about somebody's life and change the name of the person. but everybody who is in the know knows who that movie is referring to. So that could also be controversial. So these are some areas where, for instance, in Nigerian law, we do not exactly have clear law. We are still following the common law, and even the common law itself is still evolving around these areas, particularly the intersection between intellectual property rights, privacy, image rights, and some of those other things. So it can be quite a complex mix. But the bottom line is that certainly you cannot simply do a movie about somebody's life without the person's permission. Even if the person has died, you usually have to, as soon as we get an agreement, and even if it just means a waiver agreement from the estate of the person saying, look, we will not sue you in return for X amount of money or royalty you are giving us for making this movie, but you definitely have to have some sort of agreement to avoid falling into litigation and running into trouble when you are involving somebody's life in your work. So, but what you must notice, at the end of the day, the copyright in that movie, when it is made, belongs to the maker of the movie, not to the subject matter, the person whose movie is depicted, whose life is depicted in that movie. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Max, for helping with that question. Okay, there's still one more question from Beatrice. The question is, what is the difference between trademark and CAC registration in terms of name?
Okay, so let me attempt to respond to this with this other question. Okay, so Max has also rightly pointed out in terms of your first question, the way around it really, if it's a movie that's made in life, if the person is still alive or the person's estate is involved, they should be able to sign an agreement before the movie even starts. So the producer will bequeath every right to the estate or the owner or the person. So there's a way around it. Just like we're going to an average studio to take picture. And you see most of these studio houses putting their signature there because they understand the logic behind it, they understand the law. So, but if you step in there and say, before you take me, let's agree. And it sometimes it's weird, but for people like us that have a little bit of understanding of this thing, we've seen it play out. We say, I don't want your logo on my picture. Let's agree on that. We just bring a piece of paper, and that's why people like us, we have a studio that we take regular and we sign. That I don't want to see it in public. I don't want to see it, make money from it. If you have to make money, you have to take permission from me. There's another way around it. Sometimes it can be extreme, but if you know that, just like an average celebrity picture that is taken, he knows that his picture is value. So he signs that out. So from that perspective, if you know the movie will be made and some revenue will come out of it, you can sign up from day one that I know that you are the producer, have the right over this. However, I want this certain percentage, or I want I want to give up this right and allow me to take 100%. That can be sorted. For the difference between trademark and CAC, CAC is business registration. You cannot trademark without having a business name registered of CAC. CAC is you register a business. So that is a different level. When you want to do your trademark, they will ask you, I think I might be wrong, but I think Max can confirm, if you are registered, as a matter of fact, trademark, your business name is a legal entity. It's like you are a human entity, in quotes. You are human, you have your rights. Your business is a legal entity that has its own right under the law. So by registering it, you've taken that initiative to claim that name. Then the next one would then be that you are trademarking it, and trademark, why they say it's our intellectual property is a private right and it's territorial, it's because every of the, and beyond just the territorial, it's also have a classification. It depends on the classification you are trademarking your name is. But for under CAC, if you register your name, you might not have any name registered that is similar to that, but it's a different ball game for trade. Even the same with trademark, that's the design, everything will be considered. But CAC is the first step towards you then saying you are trademarking it. I don't know if I communicated.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for helping us with that question. I'm sure from her end, she was able to get what you were insinuating, or the points we were trying to make. I think so far we have done well with today's class. Thank you so much to our mentors, Mr. Polarin, Mr. Sand, and also Mr. Max for helping us do justice to today's topic. I'm sure our mentees were able to learn quite a lot from everything that was discussed. Please feel free to revisit this class as it's being streamed on YouTube. The link will be sent to your group. You can always revisit it and catch up with the necessary information that you might have missed out. Just before we go, please, I forgot, but I would like for us to just quickly take a quick picture of today's session quickly so that we can call it a night. So please, if that's going to be possible, can we kindly, for those who have some kind of lighting in their background, can you kindly turn on your video so that we can take a quick screenshot?
In progress.
All right, please give me a minute. Okay. Thank you, Beauty. Thank you, Simi. Thank you so much, Mr. Sand. Thank you, Bright. Thank you, Praise. All right. Okay. Yeah, we are done with that. Thank you, everyone, for being present in class and staying to the end. This class is supposed to be 2 hours. We overshot on time a little bit, but we thank you so much for your patience and staying to the end. Thank you to our mentors, our wonderful mentors once again, for helping us run through today's topic. They did justice to it. You know, IP in itself is a very large space, right? But within the shortest possible time, our mentors have been able to do so well to help our knowledge gap. We look forward to seeing you all in the next class. Please do well to follow the instructions that will be posted in the group. The group assignments, the new tasks for the week will also be posted today. Do well to follow on the instructions. And when necessary, reach out if you're having any issues. For those who have not been grouped or placed in a group, please reach out to me. I will do well to look into it and try to place you in a group. Thank you so much, and do have a wonderful night's rest.
Good night.